and loving personality will continue to live on in their large and close-knit family.
Said that they shot my son and they took him from her like an officer. Couldn't believe what was happening, that what she was saying was a lie. They told me he was in critical condition, that they were working on him, and then 5 minutes later they told me that he was dead.
Kayla Salazar went to the Gilroy Garlic Festival with several of her family members, including her stepdad and 2 sisters who were 4 and 12 years old. Her life was tragically cut short just days before she was to turn 14. Kayla dreamed of one day having a career in animation. She was an animal lover, having quite the zoo herself at home, including 2 dogs, Lucky and Cinnamon, a guinea pig named Albert, a rabbit named Miss Jackson, and a cat named Rosie. Kayla was a lot like most teenagers. She enjoyed playing Mario Brothers and Pokemon Go, and her favorite color was blue. Kayla was very compassionate, charismatic, generous, and resilient. She was also very intelligent, having just graduated from an after-school program called ACE Empower. Kayla and her family members were all eating ice cream when they heard what they thought were fireworks celebrating the end of the festival. It wasn't until the crowd started running and screaming did they realize they were actually hearing gunshots. Kayla's little sisters were able to escape unharmed. Kayla hung back to help a family member who had a cane and needed assistance moving quickly when Kayla was struck in the chest by a bullet. Her stepdad immediately started administering CPR to Kayla in an attempt to save her life, but it was too late, and she was gone. While trying to save her life, Kayla's stepdad was also struck by a bullet, but survived his wound. Not only was Kayla a victim of a mass shooting, but she was also a victim of bullying at school. Kayla did not let the bullying bring her down, though. She just carried on with a loving smile and a warrior-like attitude. Her winning personality and her heroics right before her death will always be remembered.
Kayla was a beautiful children that really cared for other people, and she cared about animals, and she was our motivation, and we're in pain that we lost her. Thank you so much from the bottom of our heart.
When Sarah Warner moved to Santa Cruz with her boyfriend, 25-year-old Trevor Irby, from Romulus, New York, in January, she never thought in a million years she would be returning to New York, only to bury her one true love. Trevor worked as a medical assistant at a nursing home, but was planning on moving back to New York with Sarah in August to pursue his dream of returning to school to become a physician's assistant so he could help others. Trevor was a die-hard Steelers fan, and very athletic, playing 3 sports while attending Romulus Central School: soccer, baseball, and basketball. Trevor and Sarah were sitting at a table chatting when the shooter opened fire. It is believed that Trevor was shot at close range in the back and died almost instantly. Sarah was able to escape the rampage unharmed. Tammy Williams, Trevor's mother, had boarded the first flight she could from New York to California to do the unthinkable: identify her son. Tammy's oldest son, Tyler Walborn, had died 25 years prior, and now she was having to bury her youngest son, her baby, at 25 years old, only 1 month after having to bury her own father in June.
The last thing I said to Trevor is, "Trevor, I love you." And he says, "Mom, I love you. I'm having a good time. I'll be all right. I'll call you tomorrow." Well, my call tomorrow never came. That call for me was getting on the plane to come here, to bring him home, to bury him. I'm my baby. How could somebody just do that to somebody that never hurt a single soul in his life?
It's senseless. There is no reason for stuff like this to happen. For a 19-year-old kid to go and have a rampage, or whatever you want to call this thing that he had, why?
Grief.
When asked how Trevor would be remembered, his friends and family all had the same response. He was the happiest person they had ever met, always dancing around, singing, and being loud. And let's not forget Sarah, who had lost her true love and soulmate of 5 years. Dreams of getting married, buying a house, and having children. Dreams that died the day one person entered the Gilroy Garlic Festival with a high-powered rifle. What made the shooter take these 3 innocent lives and wound over a dozen more? The FBI has called in their Behavioral Analysis Unit, or BAU, to investigate the shooting and just who the shooter was. It's apparent that the shooter didn't leave any sort of impression on his hometown of Gilroy, California. He was born into an athletic family, with his dad being a competitive track and field athlete. He had even tried out for the 1988 Olympics in 2 different running events, the 400-meter run and the 800-meter run. The shooter had 2 biological brothers and 1 half-brother from his father's previous relationship. The shooter was constantly living in the shadows of his older brothers. One brother was an aspiring boxer and was becoming quite successful. At one point, he was ranked number 2 in the entire United States in his weight class. The shooter was his brother's sparring partner. They would spend hours sparring, or making the movement of boxing, without delivering heavy blows in the family's home garage that had been converted into a home gym. His biological brothers all graduated from a rather different type of school. Mount Madonna School was a non-traditional kindergarten through 12th grade. It was founded in the 1970s by students of a silent Indian monk. The school had yoga classes and courses with subjects such as values and world thought. The boy's mom also worked for the school at one point in time. The shooter's 2 older brothers both had graduated from Mount Madonna, whereas the shooter had transferred to Mont Vista Christian School in Watsonville, California, just prior to his 9th grade year. He felt like he just didn't fit in with the atmosphere or the curriculum at Mount Madonna. While at Mont Vista Christian, the shooter once again felt himself just blending in. After 3 years at Mont Vista Christian, the shooter's parents thought that maybe he would do better in a public school. Just before his senior year, he transferred again to Gilroy High School, where he would graduate in 2017. School yearbooks would show that he hadn't participated in any school groups or sports teams. He simply didn't make any impression on any of the schools he attended. Former classmates would say after the shooting they would see the shooter in school, but he never would stand out. He was just sort of there.
They're a very nice family. The boy is very nice. And we're just shocked that this happened. We never expected this. The boy is very quiet, and he used to play with the kids around the neighborhood riding their bike when they were smaller.
Most 19-year-olds leave some sort of digital footprint in this day and age, usually on a social media platform, whether it be Snapchat, Facebook, TikTok, or Twitter. The shooter left very little to be discovered by the forensic computer investigators. The shooter had created an Instagram account just 4 days before the shooting had occurred. The page has now been deleted, but before it was deleted, investigators were able to get some information from his profile. In the bio section of his Instagram account, he posted that he was of Italian and Iranian descent. He had a photo of the iconic Smokey the Bear with a sign stating, "Fire Danger High." The caption under the photo was urging people to read the book called Might is Right, written by Ragnar Redbeard. It was published in 1890 and is used in an attempt to justify racism and slavery. Other than the questionable Instagram post, the shooter left very few clues as to who he was and why he would conduct such a terrible tragedy. He had officers scratching their heads. The investigators knew that they had to dig deeper if they wanted to get any further in their quest for answers. The police were able to secure 2 search warrants, one for the shooter's vehicle and one for his apartment in Walker Lake, Nevada. The shooter's vehicle was obviously still sitting on Laurel Drive, and when the officers went to search the car, they pulled the shooter's duffel bag from the spot he had stashed it just a few hours earlier. There were also a lot of items in the shooter's vehicle that could help provide answers for detectives. Some of the items were a clown mask, a wilderness survival guide, a first aid kit, an open bottle of Jack Daniel's whiskey, a camouflage pack with a fire shelter tent, and the shotgun the shooter had decided to leave behind before he went on the rampage. A pamphlet about the Garlic Festival was also found in the car. In May of 2019, the shooter had moved into an apartment in the small town of Walker Lake, Nevada. The town has a population of less than 300 people and is very desolate. When police talked to the shooter's landlord, he reported that the shooter moved into the apartment in an unusual way. He paid for 3 months' rent, up front, and in cash, and had very few belongings with him and no furniture. He had his laptop with him and stated to the landlord he did some sort of online IT work. When the search warrant was executed, the investigators found a gold mine of items that all pointed out that the shooter had been planning a mass attack for quite some time. Investigators had found a gas mask, bulletproof vest, empty boxes of ammunition, a knife, gun pamphlets, computers, and numerous computer hard drives, plus a slew of other items. Reading material regarding white supremacy was rumored to be found, as well as reading material regarding radical Islam, but the source wasn't authorized to speak with the media, and they wished to remain anonymous. How did the gunman get a weapon into the state of California, where this particular type of weapon is banned? It was actually quite simple. On July 9, 2019, he purchased the gun online in Nevada, where possession of the gun is legal, and he had it shipped to Big Mike's Gun and Ammo Shop in Fallon, Nevada. The owner of the store made a public post on Facebook, stating the shooter showed no reason for concern when he arrived to pick up the weapon, a Romanian-built WASR-10 semi-automatic rifle, which is considered an assault weapon. He had only been living in Nevada for a couple of months when he applied to purchase a firearm, just long enough for him to establish residency, one of the many requirements of purchasing firearms in the state of Nevada. Was this all part of his master plan? Members of the Gilroy Garlic Festival nonprofit organization had the slogan #Gilroy Strong printed on t-shirts, and sold them to raise money for victims and victims' families that were killed or injured during the mass attack. Remember, if you see something, say something. You never know how many lives you could save. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Active Shooter, the podcast. Remember, if you see something, say something. There's no telling how many lives you may be saving.
A huge thank you to Darren Curtis, who composed some of the music used in this episode. Check him out at darrencurtismusic.com. DARRENCURTIS music.com.
Active shooter, reports of an active shooter,
active shooter mass casualty incidents.
Make sure to check us out on social media. We have a discussion group on Facebook. Just search for Active Shooter, the podcast discussion group. You can also find us on Instagram at Active the Podcast and Twitter at Podcast Active. For just $1 a month, you can get access to ad-free episodes, early release episodes when available, and a shout-out on the show. Just go to patreon.com/Active the Podcast. Thank you, and be safe.